We want to welcome everyone to the museum today. My name is Denise Nallen. I'm the education coordinator here at the museum, and I am so glad to see you all. It's been exciting to get to know people in the community. I started working here in January, so it's been fun to meet kids and adults, and people who love history. If you have ever met me before, you'll know that I'm kind of a history nerd, so you definitely are in the right spot. You and I have that in common. Today is actually Flag Day, which is not a national holiday, but it's a recognized day in our country. And the reason that we have Flag Day on June 14th is because the Continental Congress of the United States voted to create and adopt the American flag, the Stars and Stripes that we know today. That was adopted on June 14th in 1777. And then in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson announced that Flag Day would be an officially recognized day, which means it's not a national holiday. The banks and the the post offices are still all open, but we see this day as important, as to represent a symbol of our country. So I'm glad that you're here with us. Now today we're kind of taking our Flag Day theme a different angle. We're looking at Oklahoma flags, but I think it's all still connected because Oklahoma has a really interesting history for the different flags that have flown over the state. And so this is my friend Kay Little. Kay and I have known each other for a long time. I think I was still a kid when we first met. Yep. And so some of you were going to go, wait a minute, no, we're not going to talk about age today. Nope. But Kay and I have known each other a long time. Kay is a longtime educator, and she has been a homeschool parent, a teacher. She is now working, she has her own little company called Little History Adventures, and she does a lot of reenactments around the area. If any of you have ever gone up to the Little House on the Prairie events in Independence, you might have met her. She was a school marm last weekend, right?
A couple weekends ago, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like us to welcome Kay, and then she's going to talk to us about the 14 flags over Oklahoma.
Well, today we're going to talk about all the different flags that have flown over Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a land of contrast and extremes. If you took a trip from southeast corner of the Red River and then moved northwest, you travel through a variety of landforms, vegetative cover, and different kinds of people. I mean, it begins with just 320 feet in elevation above sea level in the southeast corner, constantly gain altitude as you move northwest. As we study world history, we see a westward movement from Bible times to England to the New World, continuing across the U.S. And I learned this several years ago as the chain of Christianity. We start with creation, which is the focal point of history. Paul, when Christianity began its westward march, the Bible in English, Columbus, linked to the New World, Pilgrim, the seed of our Christian republic, then we have the Patriots, then the first Christian republic, pioneer westward movement, which brings us to Oklahoma. And we're going to see this westward movement in the different flags that I'm going to talk about. And so that's why I call it the 14 flags that flew over Oklahoma. Because there's been books and curriculum written about it where I got my information. I'm an Okie, was born in Oklahoma, graduated from high school in Oklahoma, but in between there I grew up in Texas. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved a little bit. And I just remember in Texas, there was always 6 flags over Texas. Then when I start learning Oklahoma history, I'm like, well, we have 14. We're smaller. So anyway, I just thought that was funny. But soon after the Louisiana Purchase, in 1803, the portion that is now known as Oklahoma was designated as Indian Territory, as most of us know. In 1889, it was divided into 2 territories, and the eastern side kept the name Indian Territory. The western half is called Oklahoma Territory. We happen to live in the part that's known as Indian Territory. And most of Oklahoma Territory was open to white settlement through the land runs, if you've ever studied that. And by the way, I can do a talk on the land runs. Plug here, I have cards that show the different programs I can give if you need a speaker for about history. And I have one about the Dust Bowl. Anyway, I have several. But I love to talk about the land run to school-age kids and tell them about how come we have the land runs. And I tell the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm not one of those that just tells what makes you feel good. And I'm also not going to talk about, I don't give revisionist history. Don't get me on the soapbox real fast. But I think we need to know the truth and then find out why and how and all that. So the people started demanding, the people in the territory started demanding that the two territories become one state, which they did on November 16th, 1907, becoming the 46th state. How many of you know the first country to settle in what is now Oklahoma? Anybody? Spain, yeah. You're cheating. I'm teasing you. It's okay.
Well, seriously, I would probably guess England.
Yeah, well, it's the second one. But we're going to talk about why Spain. Well, I can go ahead and talk to you while she's trying to figure it out. The Royal Standard of Spain, and the reason why it was our first flag is because in 1541, Coronado was the first European to explore parts of what is now Oklahoma. It's mostly the eastern part, the Great Plains in the western portion of Oklahoma, I'm so sorry. And he claimed it for the King of Spain. And so that's our first flag, which is this one. And that's what the flag of Spain looked like at that time. And all of the things on there symbolize different things about Spain, like the castle and lion represented royal houses of Castile and Leon, from which the King of Spain descended. The red and white quartered flag has a golden castle on the red and a red lion on the white. And it's thought, actually, that the Vikings were the first foreign people to enter Oklahoma, but the history of Oklahoma was not recorded until the first European explorers arrived in 1541. Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Denise. Okay. Oops. Oh, no. Leave that there. Now, go down that hall. Ask one of the ladies back there. Okay. The Great Union flag was next. In 1663, King Charles II of Great Britain gave a large area of land to a lot of his loyal supporters, and this land stretched between Atlantic and Pacific oceans, and all of it was called Carolina. The X on the blue field is the cross of St. Andrew and represents Scotland. We're going to see the cross of St. Andrew again. The red cross on white is the cross of St. George and represents England. The crosses represent the union of England and Scotland, and so this was Britain's flag in 1663. So, there we go. And then in between, between 1682, 1719, the Royal Standard of France's flag flew over Oklahoma. Now remember, it was not called Oklahoma yet. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And in 1682, La Salle claimed all the country drained by the Mississippi River for the French king. And in 1719, Bernard de la Harpe, it did not like something I did. Huh. Okay. It went back to making the, let's not worry about it. And if we find the picture, well, you do have your brochures, the picture I'm going to talk about in a minute that's different, we'll see it. So, Bernard de la Harpe became the first European to hold a peace council with the native people the Native American people that were in what is now Oklahoma. These talks took place in a Tawaconee village, and a peace agreement was signed by the chiefs of 9 tribes, and La Harpe erected a log as a reminder of the French and Indian agreement. Now, I don't know, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing a lot of these names correctly, so just bear with me, I'm not always good at that. Into this log he carved the coat of arms of the French king, and this huge piece of land was called Louisiana, and it wasn't just what is now Oklahoma. Named it after King Louis XIV. The Flour-de-Lis was also on the coat of arms of the French king of this era, which also represents the Holy Spirit. And so, again, this is the French flag. Okay, now, this is the one that's different, and the next flag in your brochure is not going to be like this. Do you see that? Okay, the next flag, my notes here. I'm going to tell you about this flag first, and then I'm going to tell you about the one that you see in the brochure, because I just learned something this week. In 1763, after the French and Indian War, the King of France surrendered the land east of the Mississippi to England, and the land west of Mississippi to Spain. And so Oklahoma was in that western portion, so the standard of the Empire of Spain flew over the area. And it is different from the first flag of Spain, but has some similarities. So you'll notice in your brochure a flag that is white with red cross in it, right?
Yes.
This is called the, that's good. They say this is the standard of the Empire of Spain, but it's the Burgundy cross of Burgundy. And you see the cross is made up of knotted branches, and it represents the crucifixion of St. Andrew, patron saint. I know nothing about this. I just am starting to study about it. I'm going to be calling Oklahoma Historical Society and ask them why they changed to this one. Did they find out this was really the correct one for that time period? So I'll have to find out and add that to my talk next time.
So 15 flags.
Well, that supposedly took the place of the island. Okay, then in 1800, Napoleon reclaimed a portion of Louisiana for France by signing a secret treaty with Spain. So the standard of the French Republic was the flag. The blue represents Saint Martin and is a symbol for care and duty of the rich to help the poor. White represents the Virgin Mary and Joan of Arc and is a symbol of royalty. Red represents Saint Denis, patron of Paris. Now you'll notice a lot of these have a lot of biblical religious symbolism, is that they were very, basically they were very Catholic, and so there's a lot of symbolism for that, for all the patrons and the saints. Now, most of us know that in 1803, President Jefferson purchased Louisiana from Napoleon, and my poor flag is coming off. Most of what is now Oklahoma was included in this, so a 15-star U.S. flag was flown. Now, notice, you see the extra stripes on there? I don't know if you know, but the flag, up until, I have it in here somewhere. The flag would, every time we got a new state, we'd add a star and we would add a stripe. So can you imagine if they still did that? Our flag would be really weird looking.
It would just be red.
Yeah, but it'd have lots of stripes on it. So, so the U.S. flag has been pretty much similar from the beginning. It's been red, white, and blue. I think even the Betsy Ross flag was somewhat. The red represents bravery, white purity, blue loyalty. And so, like I said, those are the 15 states so far. Let's see, the 15 stripes represent the 15 states also. According to the law of 1795, a star and a stripe was to be added to the flag each time a new state was admitted. But then, in 1819, the U.S. flag had 20 stars representing 20 states in the Union. So a law was made stating that those stripes that are on the flag now represent the original 13 colonies. And then we just add a new star every time we have a state. So that makes it easier to make and to see and to fly. So that would be really hard. Now, Panhandle, what we call the Panhandle now, still was not part of the United States. It's not part of Oklahoma. So, because what we call the Panhandle was still owned by Spain. At this time, we were what was called the Arkansas Territory. Remember, we're not Oklahoma yet. So the western boundary for this territory was the 100th meridian, which is Oklahoma's present-day western boundary. So in 1821, the Republic of Mexico, which we have here, became independent of Spain. So the Panhandle was included in that part of the territory claimed by Mexico until 1836, and has lots of symbolism on it. Now, in 1836, colonists in Texas, which was in Mexican territory, they won their independence from Mexico. So, since our Panhandle was in that part of Texas, the Republic of Texas flag flew over that area. So, the Texas flag flew over part of Oklahoma. Oh, I found that very interesting. And so the star in the middle stands for their independence, and blue, the sky. But then they eventually adopted this flag, which is the one we know now, and that was in 1839. It's a new Texas flag, and that flew over what is now the Panhandle. Now, interesting fact about the Panhandle. Before the Civil War, there was a lot of debate. Okay, which stars are going to come in the north, which stars are going to come in the south? Because they didn't want one part to be bigger than the other or have more states than the other. You know, if you remember, the debate was pro-slavery or anti-slavery. So Texas itself was pro-slavery, and according to the 1820 Missouri Compromise, there can be no slave states north of 3630 north latitude, or we call it the Mason-Dixon line sometimes. Now, the Oklahoma Panhandle, owned by Texas, was above that line. So they released it. So see, it used to be part of Texas, like I said. So the Panhandle was not possessed by any state or territory for several years and was known as no man's land. And that's where that comes from. So their colors, Texas colors, are based on the colors in the flag of the United States. Now in 1820, the first tribe in Oklahoma to have their own flag was the Choctaw tribe. So we have the Choctaw flag. And also, a very prominent Choctaw is who wrote the curriculum, some of the curriculum about the 14 flags. And the other tribes didn't have their flag till later. The symbols have remained the same through the years, which are the pipe used when discussing tribal matters, the unstrung bow of peace with preparedness for defense. 3 arrows represent the 3 great Choctaw chiefs at the time. Let's see, does it tell them? Okay, it'll tell in a minute. Okay, during the Civil War, now this is where the good, bad, and the ugly comes in, okay? And this is part of my land run talk too. But during the Civil War, okay, Oklahoma was a territory sitting right in the middle between the North and the South. North of us is Kansas. South of us is Texas. We have the 5 civilized tribes, as they were called, that had been moved here by the government at that time in the 1830s. And they didn't want to move. if you studied that at all. They didn't really want to come here, but they were told once they came here, government would leave them alone. And we all know that didn't happen. And Civil War is a big reason. Once they came here, they were trying to be neutral because leaders from the North and the South were coming, trying to get them to be on their side. And finally, a lot of them realized we're not going to be able to stay neutral. And so most of the Native Americans sided with the South. One thing, a lot of them had slaves, but another thing is, why would they side with the North when the North represents the government that pushed them out here? So they believed the Confederates that said they would not do those same things, which is true, they wouldn't have, but they lost. But anyway, okay. This is the flag we tend to see for the Confederates, but it's not really the Confederates' flag. It's a battle flag for Confederates. This is the Confederate flag. So that's why you'll see when, if you go to OHS today, Oklahoma Historical Society, they have the 14 flags displayed, great big ones, right outside their door, and they'll have this one as the Confederate flag. Many years they had this one until they learned that wasn't the true Confederate flag. So, sorry. So in November 16th, 1907, we became one state, Oklahoma. Does anybody know what Oklahoma means?
Red Earth.
Red man, yeah. It's it's home of the red people, so, which has red earth for sure, yeah. The name was actually suggested by Allen Wright, who was a Choctaw preacher and leader of his people. And remember, Choctaw is the flag we have already. So, but the first Oklahoma state flag was not adopted until 1911, and this is it. Anybody who knows me and sees my car, my license plate on the back has this on it, with some numbers the government gave, but anyway, I didn't have it personalized for me. I just have, when I found out that there was a historic license plate, I'm like, I'm on it. I'll pay $15 extra a year for it, so, yeah. Anyway, does anybody know why it says 46? Why does it say 46? 46 state, exactly. Okay, let me make sure I get the year right because I have so many numbers going around. 1925, the new flag was adopted. So, no, sorry. 1911. I skipped to the next one, sorry. So that one was in 1911. Well, people started becoming concerned about all this red. You got to realize, if you study the history, back then they're concerned about the communists. You know, red meant commies. So they didn't like that. They wanted something else. So in 1925 is when a new flag was adopted. And everything on this flag honors the 60 tribes, native tribes that are in our state. The blue field comes from a flag that was carried by the Choctaws, except it's a little lighter now. The shield in the center is an Osage warrior's battle shield. It's made of, the original was made of buffalo hide and decorated with eagle feathers. Two symbols of peace rest on the shield, which is the peace pipe and the olive branch. The crosses on the shield are actually Native American signs for stars. State's name was added in 1941 to the flag, because for a long time it was just the blue with the picture. In 1924, Oklahoma's legislature held a contest for a new design for this Oklahoma flag, and Mrs. Louise Funk Fluke, should I say that real fast? An artist from Oklahoma City, she won the contest. Her design was adopted in 1925 as our state flag, and it's still there. And so let's see. What I want to talk to you about next is some of the symbolism, and Denise talked about our snacks represent Oklahoma. I'm going to show you some of that. First of all, what's the state tree?
Redbud.
Redbud, very good. How about the state flower?
Indian blanket.
That's the wild flower. Good guess. It used to be the mistletoe. And then they realized, you know what? Our state flower is a parasite. What was that? Now this is our lovely legislature. Now it's the Oklahoma rose. How about the state bird?
Scissor.
Yes, aren't they pretty? Yeah, scissortail.
I have a lot of
Scissortail flycatcher. We have a state reptile, the collared lizard. Just have a state animal. Can you guess what it is? We see a lot of them around here.
Bison.
Bison, buffalo, however you want to say that. We have a state fish, the white bass or sand bass. And then our state wildflower is the Indian blanket, as we said earlier. The state game bird.
turkey.
Yes, very good. Wild turkey. We have a state fur bearer. Animal. Raccoon. A state game animal. The white-tailed deer. We have a state insect.
Huh?
Yeah,
June bug.
it should be. It's honeybee.
Oh, honeybee.
State butterfly. The black swallowtail. And what's our state song? And do you know that that's not the first one? If you read Bee Monthly, and I write for that every month along with Debbie Yee, she's sitting up here. But one month I wrote about the state song and how we got it, and it has to do with George Nye. So you want to go back and study it. It's really funny. State musical instrument.
Guitar.
Close. It's the fiddle.
Ukulele. Oh, I
State folk dance. Square dance. I guess there's other folk dances. State rock.
Rose rock.
Rose rock. Very good. This one's the funniest to me. The state percussive musical instrument. The drum. Yeah. Our state beverage. And it's not beer.
Should be.
Yeah, it's milk. Here's my favorite. The state meal. Hold on. Chicken fried steak, barbecue pork, sausage and gravy, grits, corn, black-eyed peas, fried okra and squash, cornbread, biscuits, pecan pie, and strawberries. Yeah. So that's why we have little pecan pies and strawberry candy. Isn't that cool? But oh yeah. I taught an Oklahoma history class one year to a group of homeschoolers, and one day I had each of them bring me one of those. We had a huge, it was crazy, yes.
We have a state nebula up in the sky.
Yeah, state astronomical object.
Oh, cool.
It's the Rosette Nebula.
Because the Rose Rock is the state rocket, so the Rosette Nebula is the state nebula.
State governor did sign that into existence a few years ago.
I have something about,
Is it visible?
In dark skies and binoculars. It's just off of Orion's left shoulder, or I'm sorry, his right shoulder, to the left.
And it kind of does look like a rose.
the Sutton Avian, you know, the place where the eagles are, whatever. I forgot, but some young man, yeah, in 2018, I've got to add it to my thing. Ephraim Bowling, a 10-year-old boy, initiated the authorship of a bill to have the red-tailed hawk named as our official state raptor, R-A-P-T-O-R. So I'll have to look up yours too, and make sure I add all those. Okay, that's what I have for the 14 flags and the symbols. I know we're going to have another part to our program today. Oh, real quick, y'all remember this flag, the Centennial flag in 2007?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we were, okay, questions, I forgot about that. Yes, questions. Did you have one? Yes, ma'am.
Why is the Texas flag didn't the Texas flag copy off of Chile?
Off of Chile, the country of Chile?
Yes.
Is it, oh, I guess I don't know what the flag of Chile looks like. But it may have, because Texas was occupied, Mexico occupied it for a long time, and so a lot of those Hispanic countries would have similarities. In fact, real quick, remember your question. That Burgundy one I was telling you about that from Spain, I just found out today that Ecuador took that flag. Remember, Ecuador was from the Spanish were there, and they took the flag when they wanted their independence, Quito especially. They did the opposite with the red and white. And it's kind of special to me because my daughter-in-law is from Ecuador, and my son and daughter-in-law and their kids are actually staying with us right now, so I was asking her about it, and she knew what I was talking about. Yes?
Are there more than 14 flags up there?
There's 15, right?
Why are there more than 14?
Because I was talking about how a lot of times we used to use this one, but now we use this one for the Confederate flag. So this is actually the flag.
That's the real flag.
Oh, this one is just the United States flag now. So I guess I have 16 flags here, but that's not really part of it. Yes, ma'am.
Why is there 3 American flags?
And I talked about that. At one time,
Because they added more states.
yeah, at one time, this is what our flag looked like, and it had a bunch of stripes and a bunch of stars. And then a few years later, they decided, well, we're just gonna have a stripe for each of the 13 colonies and a star for each of the states.
Now there's 13 states.
There's 13 original colonies. When we became the United States in 1776, we had 13 colonies, or states now. Yes, ma'am.
My mom used to live in Mexico, but when she was pregnant, we went to go move to here.
Cool.
And
Yeah, cool. Okay, you have a question? Yes.
why
Does that green on it? Oh, that's the olive branch for peace. Yeah. The pipe there and the olive branch stand for peace. Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So why is there 50 states in America?
Because they wanted to become part of the United States, and the government said, okay, you can be part of the United States.
How many states are in Italy?
That I don't know. We're talking about the United States and Oklahoma right now. You'll have to research, yes.
Over what part of the state did the Choctaw Flag fly?
That would be southeastern, well, southeastern part. The only reason I know that is I'm from McAllister, and that's where the Choctaws are.
The Choctaws go from the Red River to the south, the eastern boundary to the east, and, they occupy basically that corner of the state.
Well, they're in Durant, their headquarters are in Durant, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
If you go down to Photo and you go by the ruined stone and you're doing any kind of observation down that way, there is actually a monument in that area about the Spanish, and it dedicates a portion of that monument where the trail was
Cool.
when we were under Spanish control.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma's so full of such neat history. When I homeschooled my kids and then taught history to homeschoolers, we take field trips all over the state all the time. That is my favorite way of learning history. And I just feel like it makes it a little bit more interesting if we can go and see it, just like what you're talking about. Okay, any other question? Yes, ma'am.
The Rosette Nebula became the state nebula in 2019. I looked up Oklahoma's not the only state to have, 1996 or something, Utah named the Beehive Cluster as their state symbol.
Oh,
Yeah.
So there's another one in Oklahoma.
oh, yeah. Cool. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to show us around in that room?
No, you're gonna have to ask your leader if she can take you.
Can you?
Okay, because we're gonna have, the Boy Scouts are gonna come do something now, and I want you to pay attention to them. If, like I said earlier, if you ever are in some kind of organization where you need a speaker, I have cards up here.
So we're gonna have the Boy Scout Troop number 5 come now, and they're going to give a flag folding presentation and explain a little bit about flag etiquette. I wanted to mention, if any of you are interested in looking at a map, we have a map of Oklahoma Territory, or Indian Territory over here on the wall, on my left here. If you are interested in looking at that later, it'll show you where the different tribes were located. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heather Cutts. We're with Troop 5 here in Bartlesville. This is 2 of our scouts out of about a 25-strong troop, Calvin Cutts and Xavier Grooms. We were asked today to come speak about the American flag, which is very important to us as scouts as well as Americans. So the boys, the very first thing we do is a flag ceremony every Monday night when we meet. And so we'll say our scout oath and law and then the Pledge of Allegiance, and with our hand over our heart, and retire the colors at the end of the night. So our flag, our current flag that she had an example of over here, has the 13 stripes and the 50 stars. There are some other facts, major facts that we could come up with. Xavier, did you have some facts you wanted to share?
The first American flag was made out of either silk or wool, and the current American flag can be made out of nylon, polyester, or cotton.
Okay, Calvin?
In the previous presentation, she mentioned that the 50 stars are semblance for the 50 states, and the 13 stripes are for the 13 colonies. That was my fact.
Okay, my fact was, that was our assignment, we were all gonna learn a new fact. There are several rules about the flag, about how it is presented and how it is taken care of. And our troop in particular is in charge of flag disposal in this community. And so the scout office on Choctaw and Adams has a drop box if your flag is tattered or faded. And so today we actually brought with us a faded, tattered flag so you could see what state it kind of looks. I mean, if you look around town at flags that are flying, some of them are really, really bad.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of disrespectful. And so if you see your flag at home, or at your church or at your office looking ratty, maybe you could mention it or chip in to get a new one.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to bring it by and drop it off at the scout office. But anyway, our flag should always be illuminated. If it's going to be flown at night, it always has to be illuminated. And the other fact that I learned was, if it's flown upside down, that means you're in distress. So, all right. Now, about the flag actually, I thought this was super cool. Francis Key Scott wrote the Star-Spangled Banner the night, or maybe a year after, but he wrote the words the night of the Battle of Baltimore, when Fort McHenry was being bombarded by the English. And the English were told to keep bombing until that flag comes down. Sorry, it makes me kind of sad to get this. So.
He wrote it from a distance, didn't he? Wasn't he standing on the opposite shore and was protected so he wouldn't get...
That's right, and some of our men were holding the flag up so that it wouldn't fall during the night. And so the next morning, the next morning, the sun came up and they saw the flag flying, and they knew that it was still there. So that's part of the song. So next time you listen to the Star-Spangled Banner, sorry.
You're okay.
think of the words, really think of the words when you hear it. All right, now boys, could you please open the flag? And we'll show the kind of state that this one was in. And of course, they come in all kinds of sizes. If you'll see around town, some of them are gigantic. But this one, you can see that, you know, it started to fade and the edges are kind of getting a little unraveled. So this one, we are actually going to take and have a ceremony at Camp McClintock, which is the Boy Scout camp here next to Osage Hill State Park. I don't know if y'all been. But we do a very respectful closing and burning of the flags so that we are respectful. And so Calvin, would you tell us a little bit about how to fold up the flag?
All right. So, as you're holding the flag, actually, take your switch box. So, as you fold the flag, the person who's folding is going to be on the side with the stripes, and then you're going to fold it 3 times. That way, the stars are on both sides. Anyway, so you want the stars to be on the top and bottom, and then when you start to fold, you're going to hold it tight. You fold it into a right triangle, and then over again. You guys can see that. Of course, now I can do it one here.
We do this a lot, I promise. And so our scout troop starts about 6th grade, and the boys, this is one of the first things they learn is, you know, the facts about the flag, and scouting goes back years and years and years. And we are visible in the community by helping build things, and we help at community functions, and you might see us parking cars at a run or a community event. And then we hold the flag and make sure it never touches the ground, right?
And when you hold the flag, hold it close to your heart, because it's very important to us as Americans.
That's right. If anybody has any questions, I will try to answer them. Does anybody have any questions?
Girl Scout.
Oh, good job. Those are sister groups. Okay. Thank y'all so much for listening. Happy Flag Day.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.